All right, we are in this. So let's start at the top of the mat, and we'll actually have our feet about hips width for now. And just bring your hands together. Start to breathe. And start to lift your low belly in and up. You'll notice how when you do that, it changes your posture. Your tailbone will start to drop down. Let's engage the quads so you feel the kneecaps lifting up. Let's start to rock forward, but not just with the shoulders. Let your whole body go with you, the hips as well, and lift the heels off the ground so that you're in releve, ballet releve. Heels are up, and we're still just trying to find that alignment where our shoulders stay over our hips. We're not leaning forward or backwards. And let's start to lower the heels down again. Your whole body has to move back, so you're not leaving any piece too far in front. Now let's just try that one more time. It's real tempting to kind of shift the hips forward and lean back or vice versa. So just be mindful of all of it moving together, which will require that you're stiffer in your midsection. Sometimes we get this thought that we need to be flexible, but not always. Let's start to lower the heels down again. Okay, then bring the feet together. And just for fun, let's try it with the feet together. It's a little bit harder. We'll just do it one time. Rock your weight forward. Start to lift your heels. Engage your quads. Drop your tailbone down. Hopefully it's relatively comfortable. And start to come down again. Everything traveling at once. Okay, and lower the arms down. Let's reach up for an inhale. Look up at the thumbs. Exhale to fold forward. Touch the floor if you can. Inhale halfway up. And let's step back to plank and just stay there for a moment. Knees up or down. And find that same stiffness that you had when we were standing. So the hips are not lower than that straight line that you have from head to feet. And let's come all the way down to the belly, keeping that stiffness. So the hips don't get there first. And once you're down, let's lift the chest and shoulders up and lift the hands up. So just your lowest rib and down is on the floor. We're using our back muscles to propel our chest up and forward, and we can squeeze the elbows back a little bit. Just take one more breath here. Push the pubic bone down so that you can get a little higher. And lower the hands, come up to your cobra or your upward dog. And exhale for downward dog. We'll just stay here for a few breaths. Down dog, pedal out as needed. Or sway or what have you. Let's walk the feet forward toward the hands. And when you get close, just squat and sit. We'll sit with our tippy toes. I'm just going to roll my pants up a little bit. I think with the camera, you can't quite see the poison oak that's on my legs. So we'll just have our tippy toes on the floor, and we'll just try squeezing the knees together. Take a breath. And keep squeezing the knees together. Just lift the feet so they're about the same height as your knees. Take a breath. And you'll feel that in your thighs a bit, most likely. And let's place the soles of the feet down on the floor. Use the hands on the shins to help sit up straight. Okay, round your back. We did this last week sometimes. So you have the waistline look back and then rise up again so that your shoulders are over your hips. Twice more. Going round. This we can call our C-spine. We're rolling toward the tailbone, and we'll rise up, and we'll be perched on the sitting bones. Take one more. Okay. And this next time we'll round back and we'll stay there. And I'm pretty sure we did this last week, but I have no idea which class. we'll pretend we're holding a beach ball, and we're just gonna twist to the right, and we'll come back through center, through that C shape, and then we'll twist to the left, and come back through center. So just go back and forth at your pace, and through whatever range works for you. But remember that C shape, that scooping feeling, and try to maintain it. And you can always reset it when you come back through center. Also try to keep your feet equal on the floor. Just because you're twisting one way doesn't mean that one foot has to be light or one hip has to be light. Keep that the same if possible. And let's take one more to each side. And whenever you're done with your round, we'll just meet in a downward dog. So to get there, you could prop yourself up again, then cross the shins, and either jump back, step back, vinyasa or don't vinyasa. Okay. Let's rock forward to plank again. Remember this stiffness. And some of the ab work that we're going to do will help you get a little more stiff. Sometimes when folks are real flexible and kind of loosey-goosey, it's hard to access some of the balancing poses. So we need to maybe make ourselves a little stiffer sometimes. Let's come down all the way to the belly. You can place the knees down first if you want. And let's do Shalabhasana C. Lift the chest and shoulders, just like you did, hands up. And reach the hands back. Interlace the fingers. Maybe you can come up another inch. If you emphasize pubic bone down, see how that impacts you. It should feel pretty good in the front of the shoulders and the chest. Okay, let's stay up there, but keep your place your palms down. And come into your cobra or upward facing. And exhale for downward facing. Again, we'll start to bring the feet forward toward the hands. Walking or jumping, however. We'll inhale and fold, exhale. And come through your squat. And again, have a seat. Okay, so we'll have our feet out in front of us, maybe 18 inches or so. And we'll find our rounded shape down. This time we'll lift one leg up and we'll let it extend out straight as we come down lower. And then we'll rise up and try to knee ourselves in the shoulder. And we'll go out and in. And whatever pace suits you, but remember that curved shape. So there shouldn't be a feeling of jaggedness with your pelvis on the floor. It should feel pretty smooth. And if it's too much, you can always put your hands down and kind of help the process. You might start to feel a bit fatigued in the leg that's going out and in. That is okay. Let's change sides. Just place that one foot down. You can take a break upright if you want and re-enter the C shape. Other leg. Just out and in. You don't have to go very low if you don't want. But this is going to help you in some of the balances that Anouk was talking about. I don't know how many we'll even get to today, but it is relevant always. So let's just take one or two more and then somehow make your way to sitting so that you can vinyasa and find downward dog. So one of the reasons sometimes that we can't stick Pincha mayurasana is because we're allowing our back to be a little bit too flexible. Let's come down to the forearms. We're not going to come into Pincha yet. We're just going to be in down dog B. And we'll attempt to walk our feet in a little closer. And we'll tuck that lowest rib in a bit. So we're just taking some of the back bend away. Part of the reason that we allow the over back bend in Pincha is because we're using a wall, and we know that if our feet go back really far, we'll touch the wall and we'll be safe. And if we can make this torso a little bit stiffer, we'll have a better shot at sticking Pincha. Okay, let's straighten the arms. Normal down dog. Let's lift the right leg up high for an inhale. Step forward to the hands. Warrior one with fingers interlaced. Just like you did in Shalabhasana C, reach your knuckles back. If you feel like it's hard to square yourself, bring your hands to that left hip, and you can literally nudge that left hip forward, and you'll be moving your right ribs and shoulder back. Okay, let's release the hands down, either vinyasa or just go straight to downward dog. And we'll go for the other side, left leg up high. And step forward for warrior one. Goofy thumb on top with this interlaced grip if you can. Ideally, it's our back leg helping us move that right hip forward. But sometimes we do need a little extra oomph with the hands or shoulders or something. So feel free to move that around. Ribs are square, collarbones are square. Okay, and hands down, vinyasa or downward dog. Right leg up again. Inhale. Step forward to the hands. Warrior two. Let's do this with Gomukasana arms. So our left shoulder rolls forward. Fingers by the shoulder blades, left elbow down, right arm up, right elbow pointing up. And we attempt to link our fingers. Drop the tailbone down and think of that stiffness of torso. So even though you have this grip, avoid doing this with your back. Very tempting because it makes the grip easier. But find that stiffness. That is the essence of a torso in warrior two. Okay, release the grip, vinyasa or downward dog. And from dog, we'll lift the left leg up high. And we'll step into the hands for warrior two. Good. So now the left elbow is up. The right elbow is down. If you can, the head presses back. Good. So it's fine to let that back bend happen when you're getting the grip. Now that you have it, move your waistline back. Like pretend you have one of those belts from the 80s. You know, I always wore belts like at your actual waist. So move that back. Let's slowly release. Vinyasa or downward dog. When you get to down dog, let's again come down onto the forearms. Dig your thumbs into the floor. Let's walk the feet in a little more. Go to the place where it's hard for you to keep your head off the ground, but where you still can. And just see where that place is. You're going to find your tricep real quick in that spot. Good. Then walk your feet out again to a nice place where it's comfortable again. And let's straighten the arms, downward dog. Right leg up high, inhale. And step to the hands, exhale for Anjaneyasana. Back knee down. Let's walk the hands up to the thigh. Let's interlace the fingers behind the head and press the head back into the hands. It's somewhat relaxing in the upper body because really you just have to grip your fingers and the rest will just move with your head. Take one more breath here. Let's release the grip so our fingertips can come to either side of the right foot. We'll just straighten both legs for an inhale and bend the right leg for a lunge exhale. Just do this twice more. Inhale straight, exhale bend. Try flexing the foot maybe as you're straightening. Good. Let's lower the back heel, re-straighten the right leg, turn it into triangle with a bind of that left arm. So roll the shoulder forward just like you did in Gomukasana, but reach for your thigh. As far around as possible. You could look up, or you could drop your right ear to your right shoulder, which is a super nice stretch for the neck. And let's move the waistline back so that you're not arching very much. Your shoulders are in line with your hips, but your spine is not making a rainbow shape in order to make your shoulders in that line. It's all moving together. Okay. Unravel from there and step back, vinyasa or downward dog. We'll try the other side. Somehow step your left foot forward. Anjaneyasana to start. We walk our hands up that knee. And we're really targeting our right hip flexors and psoas here. This shoulder thing is just a little cherry on top. You don't even have to do these arms. You can really do any arms. We're trying to drop our hips low and forward. So your front leg is controlling this for you. Think about your right toes. Press your toenails into the floor. Even the pinky toe. That's going to help us later in some of the back bends. Okay, let's come on up. Release the fingertips. On an inhale, straighten both legs. Exhale to bend. Twice more, inhale. Lisa, you can have a longer stance by probably 6 inches. Yeah. Good. Okay, we'll turn it into triangle. And you might need to re-shorten yourself, Lisa. Sometimes different depending on your balance ideals. So triangle with the right arm behind the back. Get your thumb to join the other finger so that it's not getting stuck on the other side of your leg. Let's lean back a little bit more. Good. Belly in is going to get your waistline back. Good. Anouk, you've changed it and it is now very nice. On breath 1, it wasn't there, and now it's there. Whatever you did for your neck on side 1, make sure you're doing that. Okay, slowly unravel ourselves, and I think we just vinyasa from here. So let's meet after that in the downward dog. Again, let's come down to the forearms. This time, let's step our right foot in about 5 inches and lift the left leg up to the ceiling, as high as it can go, so the hip actually stacks. And keep pressing into your thumbs, square your hips. And just do this a few times. Hip up, leg will go higher, and then hip square, leg will come down a bit. And you're going to notice that when your hip is stacking, it's very tempting to rock your weight onto that right forearm more than the left. Try not to do that. Try to keep your left forearm just as engaged as the right, no matter what your leg is doing. Okay. The next time your hip is square, straighten your arms and just bring your left foot forward to the hands. Quarter turn to the right. Virasana Padma A. Inhale, hands between the feet. And exhale to fold, head down. And we'll just stay here and we'll emphasize elbows in, belly in, weight slightly forward so you're not hanging out on the heel. Okay, let's straighten the arms for an inhale. Hands to the hips, exhale. Rise up, inhale. And just turn to the right. So you'll be facing the back of your mat. Bend into the right knee, Paschimottanasana. Either a elbow on thigh position, or a hand on floor position, or perhaps a bind. You already did some half binds today. Maybe you can get your hands to meet near your right hip. Whatever position you have, now think again about not arching your back too much. Bring your belly toward your spine and bring your spine back. If you're in a bind, it's toward your left forearm. Okay, slowly unravel yourself. Just rise up. We'll pivot around to face front and step back for vinyasa or downward dog. And we get to do all of that on side two. It's going to start with our forearm position with that right leg up this time. So you can step your left foot in a few inches and then lift the right leg. And just practice lifting it as high as you can go and then squaring the hip. When we come into Pincha mayurasana, at first, most of us, because of our flexibility, we will need the hip to be stacked a bit, because otherwise the leg is not far enough above us. But we need to think about squaring up as soon as we enter the balance, as soon as that second foot gets off the ground. So we're just prepping the hips for that. We're prepping the forearms for that so that they know how to maintain their responsibility. Okay, the next time your hip is square, straighten your arms for downward dog and step your right foot forward. We'll find Virasana D, quarter turn to the left. Reach for the big toes, inhale, fold, exhale. Roll your shoulders back, or feel your upper back muscles work. Okay, straighten the arms, inhale. Hands to the hips for an exhale. And we come up for the next inhale. We'll pivot to the back of the mat, that left foot facing straight back. Bend the knees of the legs of warrior two. And take your Paschimottanasana, which really you're going for a straight line from back foot to top hand, unless you choose to bind, and then it's back foot to head. Two more breaths. We'll slowly unravel, rise up, and just pivot around to the front, vinyasa or downward dog. Okay, we're gonna do Pincha number one. We'll do it many times, so do not worry. Let's come down to the forearms. We're going to look sort of between our forearms this time, so not all the way to your fingers. We'll step one foot in. We'll let the other hip lift as we try to get the leg high. And then as soon as that second leg lifts up, we'll try to square the hips again, so that we're not in any predicament of kneading the wall. So we're never letting those lower ribs kind of splay out more than intended. We're stiffer than that. Carol, reach more with that top leg. All the way out through your toes, reach. Okay. Good. Let's return to downward dog. We're going to do that many other times. And let's find our pigeon right leg in front. Let's just prop up on the fingertips. We'll do this a few times as well. Ah, that feels nice. All right. So with no hands, we're going to try to get ourselves into Janu sirsasana A from here. So hands up, rock to your right hip, swing your back leg around. It'll just come up above the floor a few inches, and then find your right foot to your left thigh. Glue your foot to your thigh, reach over that left foot for an inhale, and fold for your exhale. And let's think of bringing right ribs toward left knee. A small twist involved. Roll your shoulders back so it feels like your upper back is working the same way as it did in your Prasarita. Okay. Next, inhale, straighten the arms. We'll release that grip. Let's make our way to pigeon again with no arms. So you have to rock to your right, the left leg off the ground, and it's just going to circle back, maybe 6 inches or so above the ground. So you're just getting a little bit of strength there in that hip flexor. Then just maneuver your pigeon so it's where you want. And let's bring left hand to right foot, right hand to thigh. And again, we'll prop ourselves up. This time we're just a little bit higher. And if this hurts, then return to where we were before, which was hands on the ground. Let's squeeze the thighs together so you actually feel your pelvis rise a bit away from the floor. So if you had something under your right hip, it would be rendered useless. Just notice how much squeezing of the legs you're doing. You'll need to do something like that in your Pincha mayurasana. Okay, so with no hands, again, we're going to bring that left leg around. So we rock to that right hip and we fork that left foot down. This time, baby cradle the right leg. So it's very similar to your pigeon, just that you're arranged in a different place. Push your foot into your arm. Chest up. Carol, shoulders back. Okay. Half lotus with this right leg. Or figure 4 pose, if you prefer. And we'll fold forward again, like we did in Janu sirsasana, just that now we have a different scenario with our right leg. And if you're in half lotus, this right knee is moving in toward the left knee. Potentially right hand behind the back, find your toes. And then as you're folding, your forearm could help you nudge yourself deeper into this bend. Okay, and let's rise up, release your grip, release your leg, find your pigeon again, so that left leg will swoop back. Okay, and then when you're set up, negotiate your hips accordingly. We're going to reach back with both hands and attempt to hold our ankle. We'll kick into the hand so that our torso is pretty much in the same place it was before. Just it's being held there in a different way. You could always do just one hand on the foot if you want, and the other hand on the front leg. Scissor the legs again so you feel like you're rising slightly off the ground. That's going to help with your balance a lot. And that's a prereq for something like king pigeon, having the balance. Okay, let's slowly get out of there. Vinyasa or downward dog. And before we do all of that on side 2, we'll attempt another Pincha mayurasana. So just come down to the forearms, take your time. One foot steps in a little bit, just to help us get the top leg a little higher. And we have to think of scissoring the legs together and of tucking the ribs in so that we're not too bent. So there is a back bend, but it's not so much that our feet anchor themselves to the wall. Good. And once your legs are up, if you squeeze them together, it helps focus the mind a bit. Okay. Good. Wow, Carol, you saved it. Very good. All right, let's try pigeon left leg. And in this one, we're just going to stay fingertips on the floor. We want our hips to be okay with this position enough so that when we go into the deeper back bend of it, that we don't feel like our back is taking the brunt. Because sometimes folks hurt themselves in these kind of poses. And you could test your balance here if you wanted. It should be okay. All right, let's rock to that left hip, sweep the right leg around. Janu sirsasana A. We just glue the left foot to the right thigh. Hold the right foot, twist, inhale, and fold. We have about 90 degrees between the thighs at this moment. Carol, think chest forward more. Yeah, if you look forward, it would kind of help create that a bit. And Anouk, your shoulders are a little bit shrugged up by your ears. So try to unshrug if possible. Okay, let's rise up. And we'll again rock to pigeon. So lean to the left. Try to sweep the right leg, just hovering above the ground. Negotiate your pigeon so you can get left hand to left thigh, right hand to foot. Shoulders a little bit higher than they were previous. Back toes can be tucked or untucked. Practice squeezing the thighs. Rise up an inch. See if that changes anything. I feel it a lot more in that right hip flexor. Okay, let's swing the right leg forward again. Baby cradle the left leg. But foot just to the elbow crease, or you can hold on to the leg with the hands. You don't have to be quite so flexible in the hip. Chest up. And try to get that foot maybe an inch or so higher. It's tempting to be a little bit heavy on the right elbow. The right elbow should be the same height as the left elbow. Okay. So heel to belly button for half lotus. We're going to pull that left knee in a bit. And purely just the foot moving into the hip crease is going to pull that knee in. You don't have to physically move it with the hand. We'll fold forward. We'll feel the heel digging into our guts, just near the belly button. And if you want, left arm behind the back. Some folks drop their head to the shin. Some folks will look forward and think of bringing the chin toward the shin or the gaze more toward the ankle. Either way would work. It'll feel a little different. Okay, let's rise up. Ooh, release that leg. I think it was which leg is in pigeon these days? The right moves back. Is that true? Left leg in front? Okay, good. We get a little pretzel-y and the right and left are very blurry lines. Okay, so we reach back for our right ankle with one or both hands. And notice when I first get the grip, I'm kind of leaning forward. That's because I haven't started kicking yet with my leg. Once I start kicking, the chest is up. The shoulders are over the hips. Then we can play with squeezing the thighs together more. And that 1 inch lift that we get from pelvis off the ground will help us square ourselves more. Okay, good. And let's slowly get out of there. Vinyasa if you'd like. We're going to meet again in our down dog B for, again, Pincha mayurasana. So you can play with where you're gazing. It will sort of depend on your tendencies and your flexibility. Normally we'd look kind of between the thumbs and we'd be in a gentle back bend. If you do that and your feet immediately go to the wall, then maybe look more by your wrists or by your forearms, because you want to be able to control your back bend. You want to be stiff enough. This is looking amazing. Good. And let's start to come on down. We'll meet in down dog. Let's bring our right ankle to our lower left thigh. So we're in the number 4 pose, but with down dog arms. Just press your right knee back with the power of your mind and your right hip. Let's walk the hands back toward the left foot. Bend your left knee as you go so that you create a little shelf. Your hands already were on the floor, so maybe that means they can stay there. If it's too much, just put your hands in prayer. We're going to aim our chest to our shin. Take one more breath. We'll find our way to a baby cradle standing up. So you can hold on to your right leg any way that suits you. And you'll just stand up and straighten your left leg. It's quite different than when you were sitting, just in terms of, now we realize, where are our shoulders? Oh my. The power of my leg, kind of lack of hip flexibility, is making me lean forward. Let's just take one more breath here. We'll try to stand up straight as best we can. Let's gently place our right ankle again on our thigh. Walk into your downward dog. And we'll just change legs. Right foot down, left ankle to lower right thigh. Press your knee back. Take a breath doing that before you walk your hands. And as you're walking your hands back, bend your right knee. Your left knee now moves down toward the floor. And reanalyze, can you keep your hands down? Or do you need to rise up to a prayer position? There should be no pain in the hip right now. Okay, let's bring ourselves to a baby cradle standing up. Let's see how this side compares to the other. Wait. Worse. But it's pretty fun. So we did a lot of, on Monday, we did a lot of Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana. And in that pose, we do try to think about our bottom leg, but there's a lot happening, so we forget sometimes. Right now, you can keep a lot of focus on that bottom leg. Okay, let's bring our ankle to our lower thigh again. Walk into your downward dog again. And release the foot. So it is a normal downward dog. Ooh, Lord. Okay. Let's come to hands and knees for a moment. And just take a little seat on your feet. Just tuck your toes under so you get a little foot stretch. Sometimes called toe crunch. So let's bring our hands while we're here to our lowest ribs. And we're just going to slide them in so we feel the ribs tuck in. So it's a bit of a rounded shape, but not extreme. And just breathe into this. Notice when you inhale, your ribs are going to expand naturally. And when you exhale, they're going to close in naturally. So as we're upside down, we need to breathe. So you can't be that stiff. You have to have some fluidity. But you just have to be aware of these tendencies so that you can stay in the balance. We don't want to depart prematurely. Okay, we're going to attempt Stanuasana. So that is like Pincha, but there is no back bend. So we're going to start in down dog B. And right now in down dog B, I'm looking at my feet or at that bookshelf behind me. Once my feet lift off the ground, I'm going to still be looking at the bookshelf. So I'm no longer looking at my hands. That requires a lot more scissoring of the legs to get into the position. And a lot more pressing of the pointer finger and thumb. It's a lot harder than Pincha, but it's really fun. I promise you. Just go as slow as you can. I don't know if you watched me get into it, but it took me like many seconds. Once you're in it, glue your legs together just like you would Pincha and reach up to the ceiling. Yes, good fight. All right. And let's make our way to downward dog again. We will have another chance at that in a little while. Walk our feet forward toward the hands. When they get about 12 inches behind the hands, pause. And we'll just rock our weight forward into the balls of the feet so your heels lift. And a little bit more forward even so your shoulders shift over your fingers. As if you're coming into handstand. Then bring your weight into the heels again. It will be relaxing. And again, rock yourself forward. Your fingers are going to catch you. And just go back and forth a few times. You don't have to go into a mode where you start to get anxiety. Just forward or back as you feel able. Okay, good. The next time your weight is in your heels, let's just squat on the legs. We're going to attempt Bhekasana with that same idea. So, when you were rocking forward just now, your butt was up. Let's do that in Bhekasana. We're going to bring our knees to our armpits, and we're going to keep our butt up as we shift our weight forward, lean forward, and then bring our toes up. So just practice either being in it or moving in and out of it, whichever feels more difficult for you. And I just want you to realize how when you shifted forward, it was literally forward. It wasn't down and forward. It was just over. Your butt was still pretty much on that same plane. Good, perfect. All right, let's come on to a squat again. This time with our feet wider. Toes facing out. And we'll just push our knees out a bit with our arms. And when we do that, the tendency is to kind of lean forward. But let's see if we can do that while being more upright, which means tailbone down, which might mean that your glutes have to help you do this. It's not just your elbows pushing. You're going to feel your butt muscles working. Let's take one more breath. And let's release our hands, step into downward dog or vinyasa, and shake out your legs. Bring our feet forward about halfway, like center of the mat. And let's roll up to stand. We'll do that same idea of shifting that we did in Bhekasana, but we'll do it from flying pigeon. Let's put our right ankle on our lower left thigh. Either prayer hands or, if you can, fingers down. And if you can't get your fingers down, just stay in prayer hands. We'll meet you in a moment. So notice how high your butt is now. You can literally see that when I shift forward, my butt is not going to drop. So we're going to place our forearms, not forearms, what are these? Upper arms, but armpits on the leg. And we'll lean forward. Our hands are about 12 inches in front of our foot. We're just going to shift forward. And we're going to push our foot into our left arm. And we're just going to practice getting that left foot off the ground a little bit. And Lisa, for you, try it from headstand, like go from this pose up into headstand and back down again. And Anouk, I want you to practice getting your left foot off the ground, butt up. So that means your right ankle, Anouk, has to push into your left arm. It's this concept of pushing down in order to get up. And Anouk, you have to look further forward. There's nothing to see back by your feet. Okay, and one other thing. Sometimes everybody starts out here, it's all fun and games. But then when the arm balance starts, the foot and the leg starts to migrate on the thigh. If this migration happens, let me show you what happens with the hips. So right now I have my ankle on my thigh. If I let it slide up toward my half lotus, now my hips are dropped. There is nowhere to go from there. You have to undo and reset. This has to stay exactly there. Okay, let's try the other side. Left ankle to lower right thigh. Eventually hands down. When that's comfortable, get your foot and your knee as high up to your armpits as you can. Good. And that left foot flexes, and the lowest part of the left shin bone pushes down into the right arm. Just shift forward, look forward, and just practice tapping the back toes up and down. Except Lisa, you're going further, because we've done this before. Good. And the concepts really are the same, whether you're in stage 1 or stage 10. It's the basic concept of root to rise, which is in like every pose. Nice, Carol. Okay. Woo. This doesn't hurt your wrists, Miss Bloom? Okay, good. All right, let's take a little break from there. We will try that again in a few minutes. Let's meet in down dog B again. We'll attempt to come up into that Stanuasana, that straight up and down Pincha shape. And we'll try to descend from there into child's pose. Just as best we can. It'll be more like a game for our minds, a visualization exercise. So the first step would be getting into the arm balance of Stanuasana. And sort of having a functional thought while up there. And eventually bending the knees in toward the chest. And lowering down. it sort of goes against our tendencies because to forward bend out of there, it takes a lot of that rib tucking in business. Okay, good. Let's meet in virasana. We'll fold the legs back and have our hips between our arches. Find that mula bandha, pelvic floor drawing up, almost like a kind of a suction cup going from the root all the way out the top of the head. All right, we're going to turn this into Marichyasana F. So let's release the right leg, plunk the sole of the foot down. I'm just going to face front. And we'll have our heel in as close to the sitting bone as possible. We'll hug the knee to the left shoulder and twist. And you might want to sit up on a book or a block for this. When you can, you'll hook your arm. And when you can, you'll bind around your shin bone. It would be the same bind that you'd have in Marichyasana C and D. But sometimes in this position, we have a better shot at feeling mula bandha and the need for it. Some poses we could cheat and we don't have to think about it and we don't even really have to engage it because nobody knows if we're doing it but us. But in this pose, you'll feel the immediacy of it. Like you'll fall out of it easier if you forget mula bandha. Okay, let's slowly release. And just change legs. You might want to straighten your left leg fully first to make sure that it can still do that because you were in that virasana shape for some time. We'll get our left heel pretty close. Hug the knee to the right shoulder. If you can, hook the arm. And then the process of going from a hook to a bind really is about getting your boobs and your belly out of the way so that your armpit can get very close to your left thigh. Every little piece of flesh becomes important with the placement because our arms are only so long. Okay, let's slowly get it out of there and just release vinyasa or downward dog. Again, let's come forward and sit in virasana. This time, make a decision again, block or no block. We're going to let go of the right leg and we're going to baby cradle it like you've already done a few times. But this is a new position which will induce much slouching. So we have to fight that urge to slouch. It will be easier if you have something under your butt, but still not easy. And remember when you did it earlier, you pushed your foot into your arm. Try to do that here also. Okay, and let's turn this into a half lotus position. Open up the left knee a few inches so your knees are about max width. And we'll twist to the right. We'll reach our right hand for our right foot. And if you're not in half lotus, just right hand to left thigh will do just fine. We'll slip our left hand underneath the knee. Push the knee down through the knuckles, palm into the floor, and use that to help anchor you so you can twist further. This is Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana. Take 2 more breaths. And let's slowly unwind. Switch it out. You might go through full straight leg first, wiggle them around, make sure they work. And then we bend the right leg, virasana style, the left leg, baby cradle. So that right knee will just be facing forward. But this is a great opportunity to practice pushing the toenails into the floor. shoulders back. Okay, and into half lotus we go. So that right knee needs to move to the right a bit. So our legs make sort of a V shape here. It's no longer that straightforward knee position. We'll reach around. We'll reach under. If you can't reach under with the right hand, just be on top of, it's fine. Your knee is pushing down, is sort of the point. One day it might push through the hand, maybe it won't. We let the shoulders twist. The chin aims toward that left shoulder to help you eke out an extra few inches of twist. Let's slowly get out of there. Vinyasa or downward dog. All of these things are hip openers. They can be modified in 1,000 ways. You just make it work for what you've got going on in terms of pain or limitation. Okay, let's be in virasana. Una vez más. One more time. And this time, I shouldn't say one more time, but I don't mean it. We're going to walk our hands back. And maybe come to the elbows. And as you get low, lift your hips, tuck your tailbone, and then reset your hips. And sort of every bit that your hands move, you have to reset your hips again. Come as low as you'd like, potentially all the way down to your shoulders in Supta virasana. And this one, we are trying to maintain that train track parallelness of the thighs. Now for me, I'm always thinking about squeezing my knees together. They're not touching and they might never be. But if I think about them moving together, at least they're not going to migrate too far apart. Okay, let's start to rise up again. And let's just rock out of that. And come into down dog and make sure that your ankles work too. Because now that we took it back further, maybe there was an issue there. Okay. Walk or jump through, have a seat. Will attempt, some of you will attempt Marichyasana D, otherwise you're going to go for C. The only difference is, if I'm in D, I'm going to go half lotus with my left leg. Otherwise, C, just leave your left leg straight. We're going to bend the right leg, so the knee faces up. And then it's the same as what you did earlier, when your other leg was folded back. You're going to hug your knee to your opposite shoulder. Possibly hook your arm, possibly bind around. And just like earlier, the binding part, much of it has to do with, did you get your armpit in a good spot on your thigh? And Anouk, you could try bending your left arm so that it looks like this, fingers up. That's going to give you some power in your upper back to help twist deeper. And if you can't fully bind, I think the bent arm position is a little more effective. Okay, let's slowly get out of there. Release the legs. Maybe circle the ankles a time or two. The half lotus position there is very ankle intensive. Okay, and we'll set up for the other side. So the right leg will either stay straight or it will half lotus itself. The left foot comes pretty close to your butt. Your left sitting bone off the ground. Otherwise, it would be sort of impossible. So we'll hug the knee to the right shoulder. I'm going to face this way so I can see my little screen. And that right knee, we're trying to move it down, if you're in the half lotus, down and in. So it's not super blade. Okay, let's slowly get out of there and step or jump or vinyasa. Let's just meet in down dog. So that is very shouldery also, of course. Let's attempt a balance. I don't actually know if this has a name. So, you know how in sirsasana A, we have our fingers interlaced? We're going to do that, but with our head off the ground. So it's like Stanuasana, but with fingers interlaced. And we'll just see what you think about it. Surely you will form an opinion because you are human. So start out as you would headstand with the measuring of the elbows, and then just down dog B. Actually, we would call this dolphin with the fingers interlaced. And we'll walk our feet in. And as we lift the leg, it'll be similar idea to when we were coming into Stanuasana. But now we have a different foundation. So it will feel very different. So now I'm just thinking a lot about the edge of my hand. I'm trying to get that second leg up, and it's very heavy. It helps sometimes to change the foundation a bit. You have a new appreciation of different parts of you. Good. All right. Carol, you kept your head up that whole time? Yay. Very good, very good. All right, so let's find Pigeon, right leg in front. If you have any knee issues and Pigeon is no longer something you enjoy, just be Anahtasana instead. We're gonna Bhekasana up this back leg. So I'm gonna do it with this other leg because my shoulder still won't do Bhekasana. So we're gonna reach left hand for inside of left foot and try to pull the foot in close. So the back leg is actually kind of resembling your virasana or your Supta virasana. Same kind of positioning. The arch is just outside the hip. Okay, let's let that go. Try the other side. And I am going to do the other side for my leg, just for the thigh stretch, but I'm not going to be doing Bhekasana grip. So ignore my arms on this side. Do your Bhekasana grip. Might have just invented something new. It's actually really quite enjoyable. This weird little pretzel thing I'm in. I might do this even when my injury is over. Okay. Good. Let's slowly get out of there. And just step back, make sure your legs still work. We're going to meet in our plank. Make sure that you have that straightness that we addressed before. Sometimes I see folks that are new to yoga get real heavy in the hips and it starts looking real noodly. We don't want to look noodly. We want to be super straight. Okay, let's come down to the belly. Or Dhanurasana. We'll reach back for our ankles. And remember, you did this earlier when you had one leg in your pigeon. You kicked in order to lift your chest. So use the kicking action to get your chest up higher. You can flex your feet or point your toes. If you're pointing your toes, maybe you can even touch your big toes together or the whole edge of your inner foot. Push the pubic bone down, come up a little more. Okay, and let's slowly get out of there. Hands under the shoulders. Inhale, cobra or upward facing. And exhale, downward facing. Okay, we're going to walk our feet to the center of the mat. and just roll up. Just one more time, we're going to try the flying pigeon arm balance. I didn't want you to try it too many times before, because then your mind starts to psych you out. So as you're approaching it, even if you're going from a prayer to one day getting your fingers on the floor, your butt is going to be high. And think of that handstand work we did. I'm going to change way, where you were trying to just shift over. So that foot that's on the ground is going to be what shifts you. Until you feel like your elbows are somewhat over your wrists. And you're going to feel that security, which will allow your back foot to lift. So there's never a moment in this pose where you feel precarious. Lisa, you might want to try your twisted version. Just an idea. And Anouk, you got to practice that zip tie effect of ankle on thigh. Good. Keep looking forward. Yes, Lisa. One day it's going to float. And it's going to float in a way that looks not that different from the straightforward one. It won't be as high as the straightforward one, but okay. Anouk, did you do both sides? Okay, other side. As you shift forward, your fingertips are gonna catch. Just like when you were approaching a handstand prep. And part of the practice is trusting that they will. And Elisa, the root to rise thing is here really true for you. That foot has to push into the arm enough to get the other leg compensated for. Nice. Oh yeah. Woo-wee. Hopefully you can walk tomorrow. Okay, good. Downward dog. And really, all these crazy things in the Ashtanga system, it's meant to be done like 5 to 6 days a week. All right. Let's come forward onto the shins. Ustrasana. We'll place our hands on our hips. We'll lift the chest up, squeeze the elbows toward one another, and either stay here or reach for your heels. Just be open in the throat and in the chest. Push your hips forward with the same intensity that you were pushing your pelvis into the floor in our Dhanurasana. Okay, and let's rise up. We'll just sit down and lay on our backs for Ardha Baddha or something that resembles it for you. So we'll get the heels pretty close to the butt, like you should be able to graze your heels with your fingers. And we'll place the hands or the shoulders where you need them to be and lift up. And we'll stay for 5 breaths. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come on down. Notice, is your heart beating quickly? Are you sweating from the soles of your feet? So far. Okay, let's come up again. Inhale your way up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, Come on down. It just keeps getting better. All right, next one we'll do Viparita dandasana. In a lot of ways, it's easier than Ardha. Just takes more flexibility, but it'll be nice for your wrists. Be a big shoulder opener. So we'll come to the top of the head, and with one hand, we'll walk our fingers back like the creepy crawling spider back, and then the other hand, and we'll push into our feet a little bit more, so we feel our elbows anchor better. Once your elbows are anchored, you can lift your head, start to look toward your thumbs. To get out of there, we'll place the crown of the head down again, slip the hands to the floor, straighten the arms, and lower as you would from Ardha. So we lower to the shoulders. So there's no weird neck stuff. Okay, let's roll over to the side and we'll meet in Anahatasana. I'm going to grab a block for this. You could do it also without a block. And we did it, I showed you the other day a way to do it without. I'll show you that first and then I'll use my block. So we can have our fingers pressing together to keep the wrists apart. And with the forearms vertical there, it's a really nice stretch for the arm and the, it sort of imitates your Viparita dandasana quite a bit, which in turn imitates your kapotasana. Which one of the things on the list for today is Bhekasana, kapotasana B, which I think we're ready for. So let's slowly get out of here. Ooh, I'm going to fling my block out of the way. So if you feel stuck at all in your shoulders, just do a vinyasa first, and then we're going to meet in virasana. All right. So we're going to do one prep again before we do the full thing. So we're going to walk to our elbows, hands to the heels, lift your hips, and come to the crown of the head. Once you're there on the crown of the head, hold opposite elbows and try to drop the forearms down toward the floor. And the key here is going to be push into your feet, the tops of your feet, your toenails, in order to get your hips higher. And the higher your hips go, the easier it's going to be to get your forearms down. The more you push into your feet, the higher your hips go. Just that same root to rise thing that's in our arm balancing. Okay, let's slowly lower down. And we'll rise up out of it just so our knees don't have to stay for too long. And let's find downward dog, straight legs. Engage your quads so that your kneecaps rise. So let's come forward into virasana. So now we'll move into the Bhekasana version. So one leg will stay. I'm going to just keep my left for right now, but you can do either. The right foot then, or the other foot, you're going to put on the floor, so the knee up. Then we come down into Supta virasana from there. The knee that's folded back is going to want to fly out to the side and up, but we need to keep it in and down. We're about to use that entire shin on the floor. We'll place our hands like we did Ardha Dhanurasana. We'll lift our hips up. We'll try to walk our hands in a little bit. You'll probably have to negotiate where the sole of your free foot is. And we're going to do the root to rise concept. We're going to push down into the hands, down into the left foot or the foot that's back, and the shin. To get out of there, you can come to Ardha Dhanurasana, or you can release down into virasana, Supta virasana. I find it actually easier to go to Ardha from there. because there was already so much upward energy, but that's just maybe my take. All right, let's try the other side. So we fold the other leg back. It's probably easier to start sitting up because you can negotiate your legs a little bit better. And the foot that's sole down, knee up, does not have to stay right where you put it. It can move around to help support you. So we come back as far as we can. And maybe that's the practice for you. This would be Ekapada, which means one-legged, Supta, which is reclining, virasana. And if you want to turn it into the Ekapada kapotasana B, you'll place your hands and try to straighten your arms. And I place first the crown of my head, and then I have to figure out how to move my fingers closer in so that the arms can get straighter. Hips up. So everything is moving up except for the foundation, which pushes down. Make your game plan of how you're going to get out. And somehow release. So after something like that, Viparita dandasana might seem easier. So let's give it a try one more time, just from the back. We'll place the hands and come to the crown of the head. And we'll start to walk the hands back. You can interlace your fingers or not. After about 5 breaths, make your exit strategy and come on down. Well, that was great fun. All right, let us try a back bend version of Pincha mayurasana. But we're gonna move kind of slowly into it from more of a Stanuasana. If you're not sure what I mean, you can look, otherwise just go ahead into it. So you entered Stanuasana already before. So I'm just trying to look at my bookcase as I find the balance. And then once I feel like I've got the balance, my legs are together, I'm going to start to look forward, move my feet in the direction that I'm looking, and push my hips opposite that direction to make an arc. So give it a try, it's great fun. It requires that you know where your foundation is, where your hips are, and where your feet are. The stiffness of the torso that we talked about earlier, it starts real stiff and then you have to very slowly let it out, almost like you're trying to let air out of a tire, just a little bit. Because if you go too crazy, too much, too fast, you'll end up with your feet on the wall. And you can always decide for scorpion if you want. Damn, Carol, you found your hips. This is what I've been trying to get you to do for months. Woo! She did it, y'all, she did it. And it's not even that hard, right? Now that you understand, it's like, oh, okay, it worked. Good. So enough of these shenanigans. Let's come onto our butts and extend the legs out in a V shape. I shouldn't say it's not hard. It is hard, of course, but it's not harder than doing it wrong. So we save our energy if we just do it efficiently. So either arms out to the side or cross them over your chest or over your shoulders. We're just going to twist to the right for an exhale and return to center for the inhale. And twist to the left Press your right calf muscle into the floor. Inhale through center. Exhale right. Now you press the left calf muscle into the floor. Inhale center. And really you should always be pressing both calves, but you're going to notice that you need to sort of emphasize one in order to prevent you from sort of turning the whole body. Let's take one more round each side. And I really just crossing my arms right now because I can barely lift one arm out to the side. But it is kind of nice that way because, you know, you can do anything with your arms. Okay, so we're going to start walking our hands forward. Press the calves down, flex the feet. And you just did a ton of back bends, which means you were stretching the front side of the body, which means you were contracting the back side of the body. So the hamstrings have just been working for a long time. And now when they stretch, you have to go easy and you have to then engage the front side of the body. So quads turn on. Let's walk our hands over toward the left leg and we'll stop inside of the ankle. We'll let our left elbow drop down to the floor. We'll reach our right arm rather over the ear. And we'll either stay with that hand sort of in space, or you can attempt to hold your foot with your fingers, and your left hand can stay there, or you can walk it a little further forward so that you get your shoulder inside of your knee. If the shoulder gets inside of your knee, you can have your left hand join the party off the foot. This is a variation on Bhekasana. Okay. Let's roll forward again, just with the torso, not with the legs. And just walk on over to the other side. Once that right hand is sort of inside of the right foot, you can reach the left arm out. Make a choice what you want to do with it. Sometimes that foot is a bit elusive. Carol, let's lift your top elbow higher. Yeah, you can even use your bottom hand to nudge it if you wanted. Or maybe not, I don't know. I have really long arms, so I can use my bottom hand sometimes to nudge the top one. Okay, let's come through center. Walk in, wiggle the legs together. Whew. Let's go for right leg over left. We're going to lean back and hold the feet. So we're balanced, and it's like a kind of a Navasana shape of the body, but we're pulling our feet in toward our body. So you'll feel it in the hips a lot. Let's take one more breath like this. We're going to escort ourselves into this version of Gomukasana legs. So we'll just place the edges of the feet on the floor, the feet about knee height, like so out in a straight line, and then fold forward. And if this does not feel good in your hips, instead you could just do double pigeon, right leg on top. This is like a anusara version of Gomukasana. Okay, let's rise up. And we're just going to lean back enough to change legs. So we get the left thigh on top of the right, hooked as high up as possible, and grab hold of the feet and try to pull them in while keeping the balance, while keeping strength in the upper back, while keeping the breath, while keeping the feet flexed. So see how it's impossible for the mind to wander off the mat. There's too much happening here. Okay, let's bring our feet down to the floor. I like to reset the hips a little bit here. You, of course, don't have to do that, but I just lift my hips up like an inch and I get the flesh to sort of reset, and then everything kind of anchors better for me. to rise up. I'm going to turn you loose for a minute to do your last pose, your pose that you need. So it might just be a forward bend, it might be shoulder stand, or anything else that you can think of that you want. Anuk, let's try to move your elbows a little closer together. And then your hands are going to wind up more near your shoulder blades. Good. And if you can, keep your butt where it is, but lower your legs overhead. Good. And those of you in shoulder stand or halasana, let's lift the legs up again. And without moving the hands, attempt lotus legs. And once you try it for like a few seconds without your hands, you might need to move your hand and put your foot in the hip with the help of your hand. Not unheard of. But you try it first without the hands. And Anuk, that first foot that you put there has to go higher up into the hip crease. Yes. Good. And then the second leg can kind of whip around. Good. And now, Anuk, while you put your hands on your knees, lift your butt up, Mula Bandha up toward the ceiling. So it's, again, turning back toward that arm balance thing, butt up. Elbows up, just shoulders down. I know, easier said than done. So hands to the knees. Straighten the arms. Fully straight. They're not going. Okay. Let's hug the knees in and roll down enough. And let's all meet in Shavasana. And next time we are going to do a shoulder stand workshop. Good. So the next 3 breaths, go as slow as you can with the inhale and the exhale. Whenever you are done with 3 breaths, bring your knees to your chest. With minimal effort, sit up. You've probably heard me say many times that asana is mostly mind games. Pranayama can also be mind games. So counting the breath sometimes helps. Let's bring the hands together. Thumbs between the brows, relax the face. And fold forward. Namaste.